Greetings to you. Bishop Vetter here again, your bishop, still in the sacristy, showing you some of the other things that are a part of our life here in the church. Sacristy, again, is where we store everything, okay? So I just took off all my vestments. Now I put on what I wear every day, the pectoral cross. You remember my lesson, right, from some time back. I kiss it, push it on, and it goes over my heart. Voila, on my pectoral muscle, okay? So, a few other things here to talk to you about. I want to talk about, let's start with hosts. How do we get these things? So this is how they come. They come in all sorts of different ways. But they come in the packs of 1,000, right? And they stay fresh. They're unleavened, made with wheat, flour, and water, right? That's it. And so you use the word host, comes from a Latin word hostia, which means victim. Jesus is the victim. And people started to just call it the host, the victim, right? Jesus. So, but this is bread, unleavened bread. The reason it's unleavened is that we followed the Jewish tradition, right? During the Passover, when they fled Egypt, they had to leave in a hurry, and so they didn't have time to let their bread rise, to add yeast to it, and so they had unleavened cakes. We're also on a pilgrimage, right? This is not our home, and we are to be in a hurry, not just being lazy about it, right? But it's urgent. There's an urgency. And so, as well, we've used unleavened bread for the celebration of Mass. So that's this, right? Wine, same thing. We get cases of it, but wine, it has to be of the grape, right? And it can't be forced fermented, right? Or anything added to it. But that's it. That's the matter and form of the sacrament. So some hosts there. Here's some larger ones. They got containers for them, so they stay fresh. When we have hosts left over at the end of Mass, obviously they're changed. It's God, right? It's Jesus Christ, body, blood, soul, and divinity. And so we use different vessels. This is called a Ciborium, right? It's basically a chalice with a cover. That's what it really is. And it's to hold the hosts. And it's lined with gold, because it is for God, right? That we're putting God inside in the tabernacle. So that's a Ciborium. Then we have a chalice. This is actually Bishop Carroll's chalice. He's the one that built the cathedral. This is his chalice that we use for big feasts. But he was the bishop here when they did the cathedral. Chalice and Ciborium, both of them come from a word that means cup. That means cup. Okay? Then I also have this for Eucharistic Adoration. When we put Jesus with a host, right? We take the host and we put it inside this, which is called a luna, and it would go inside of this is called a monstrance, or what is it, Michael?
Ostensoria.
Ostensoria, which means something to show, right? But that would actually go in here with the host, and then you would see the host. It's interesting. There's some wonderful words. So this is called a luna, or a lunette. We get the same word for moon, right? Lunar, right? And just like the moon, who doesn't produce its own light, but gets the light from the sun, this also is just to show, not itself, but the sun, Jesus Christ, right? And even the monstrance. It's in the shape of a sun, where it's shining with the light of Christ himself, because it's Jesus himself. So the luna goes inside of a holder called a custodia, which where the word custodian comes from, right? That's where he's gonna be kept, right in here, and it's closed, and this is put in the tabernacle. Okay, so that's for Eucharistic Adoration. The monstrance is beautiful, but it's to hold the Eucharist. When the Eucharist is exposed, Eucharistic Adoration, it's the extension of Mass, right? It's the public worship of Jesus outside of Mass, right? And it's the extension of Mass. In fact, when the Eucharist is exposed at the end of Mass, if that's how it's exposed, there's actually no dismissal or blessing. That happens at the end of adoration with benediction. With benediction, the blessing, once the Eucharist is exposed, the priest or bishop never makes the sign of the cross anymore, because the only blessing that comes is going to come from Jesus. So he doesn't bless the incense, doesn't bless the people. It's all going to be Jesus. And so for that, for the benediction, to show that it's not the priest's blessing, he's just the instrument, he wears what's called a humeral veil. Now, obviously, I would have vestments on, but it's a humeral veil, okay? And it's got some little handles in there that you use to hold the monstrance. So when the blessing is given, it's not me. Jesus himself is blessing us. If any of you have watched Pope Francis when he had the blessing during the pandemic, it was very powerful when he gave the blessing, when Jesus gave the blessing for the Urbi et Orbi blessing. So that's that. What else do we got? We have Sanctus spells. There, Michael. Sanctus spells. Sanctus is the first word for holy. It's holy. It's the holy, holy. Sanctus, sanctus, sanctus. So it's the holy bells, right? There's 4 of them in each one of these, I think, or 3, that you ring, right, at the consecration. So the elevation of the host, of Jesus and the host, and the precious blood in the chalice. So that's that. This is an altar cross. Is there a fancy word for it? Altar cross. So it actually just lays flat when I'm celebrating Mass. That's actually just for me to look at. No one else sees it, really. This is called a
bugia.
A bugia?
Bugia.
So if you've ever noticed, there's 6 candles, around the altar here. You have to have 2. But for a bishop, when he celebrates Mass, you can have 7. It's the fullness of the sacraments, right? And the bishop is the fullness of the priesthood. And so when he celebrates Mass, when we have it here, we have 7 candles. It tells the people I'll be here so they can change their mind, I suppose, and go to a different Mass. But it's also to show that the fullness of the priesthood is here. Our 7th candle, now we use this during Easter, but actually the 7th candle here at the cathedral is actually at the foot of the cross in the main sanctuary. So the next time you're here at the cathedral and you look at the cross, the crucifix, the main crucifix out there has that 7th candle, and they light it when I'm here for Mass, which is great. What did you call this again?
A bugia.
Oh,
Bugia.
Bugia. Huh, what the heck? I got no idea what that means. This is called a
ewer and basin.
A ewer and basin. Ewer and basin. I would call it a pitcher and a bowl, but it's a ewer and a basin. Sounds more impressive. But that's what's used to wash my hands at Mass, when they have Mass. Now, what else do we got here? My hand towel. Look at this. Michael Sutton, he had my coat of arms embroidered on my hand towel. So that was nice of him. I don't know who the heck does that. Looks like a golf thing. Can you zoom over here? Over here, you see that processional cross. That's what's used when we come in procession. That's Bishop Rondel's processional cross from 1876. Isn't that great? So we use that when I come in at Mass. Then if you can spin over here, this here is called a Sacristy. You might think, it's just a sink. Well, it is just a sink. But the water, anything that's dumped in there, doesn't go into the sewer. It goes into the earth. So under the cathedral is this huge barrel filled with gravel, and the water goes in there, and there's holes in the barrel so that the water seeps out underneath the cathedral. So that's where you would pour holy water, for example. Or let's say that if someone were to spill the precious blood, we would wipe it up with purificators, right? And then we'd soak that in water, and then that water would be poured into the Sacristy so that those accidents then would go into the ground. Thank you all very much. I hope this helped. It helps you see, gives you a little idea of what goes on behind the scenes in the sacristy as we prepare for Mass and what is used. Obviously, the dignity of the liturgy, the fact that we're offering to God is serious, and I think you can tell from the things that we use. It shows that, right? That the real dignity and worth of what happens here is sacred indeed. God bless you. Pray for me. I know my prayers for you. Bye now.